Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Depressed Dio, and this is Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 8. Decided to put a break in the video and continue on with the matches. I don't like making overly long videos of these of Langrisser. Anyway, still, this is the last match I did during the really early time slot on Sunday. So my opponent is Dual Cross here. So this one did have an SP Ultimuller. I was able to tell from the icon change. Definitely a more traditional box, to say the least. Multiple tanks, not really much in the form of... Well, there's some AoE, and then a bunch of rushdown assassin types. So, something I probably say very, very often. They get rid of my Hilda, which is not surprising. I get rid of their Ares, which is also not surprising. So it took Freya. So they get rid of my legs, get rid of my Risen Seal. They take their Risen Seal. So I was kind of unsure what I wanted to go after. I went after Tensei Jessica first. I did not want to deal with her teleporting any of the other dangers towards me. Also did not want to deal with Ultimollar's nonsense because I don't really know all of his kit. I've seen him in action, but it's been a while. Took my Tensei Jessica just to kind of lock that down. They go ahead and go after my Lucretia, as well as my Tsubame of all people. I was not expecting them to ban someone like that. They take Helena, so still hasn't taken a tank. Went straight for their AoEs at this point, and any guard negation. Took my Helena. I was kind of under the assumption my opponent was going to eventually grab a tank, so this would at least force them to grab a tank if I take Helena, because obviously all these tanks are pretty good at stopping Helena. Yep, so there's their Hilda. They banned some of my healers at this point. Banned my Florentia, which honestly I wasn't going to pick her because I don't have a faction buff for her. I ended up banning the rest of their AoE and went and got rid of Kyura. Illustrial's still on the board, but this map is actually not great for Illustrial. The grasslands are all in the middle. The only defense terrain that's available is up the little mountains up top. So there's actually not very much mobility for her on this map. It's great if you can get her set up, but it's not something I would like to rely on. At this point, I was down to 2 healers. Actually, I was down to 1 healer, so I went ahead and just took Sophia to get that coverage. They go for the rest of my assassins at this point. They take Bernhardt, which is annoying. And at this point, my opponents, I was completely fine with just leading them either with a tank or a healer. So that's what I did. Got rid of their assassin. Got rid of their SP Elwyn. Took Marielle, so I at least have some sort of pseudo assassin. I felt like she was going to be more reliable than Illustrial. In hindsight, I think it might have been the opposite. I think Illustrial probably would have been better just simply because of faction buff. But it is what it is. They take Albedo, which we haven't seen in too many matches lately. Alright, standard, yeah, pretty standard, Albedo with a Impure Desire attack, which probably makes sense because Albedo is swords, and swords do pretty decent against spears. Bernhard here with Steelmane Werewolves, standard kit here, 3C, AoE, Rupture. Risen Seal's all heals. Helena's standard kit. Hilda here, standard kit, but did take Hoplites, which this is the first time I think I've ever gone up against a Hoplite troops. They're kind of weird. When actively attacking, their damage dealt is increased, and they ignore class disadvantage. So I assume this is only when they're actively attacking, and not when they're being attacked. But I'm not entirely certain. Nothing too special to point out here. Standard Helena. I did switch to Zealots for Marielle because I assumed I was going to be dealing with swords. But Zealots are not the best option simply because I don't really have that many buffs I can give. Or I can't give any long duration buffs to Marielle. All the buffs I'll be giving her only last for 2 turns. And since she does a lot of setup involving Enduring Faith, her second strike tends to not have buffs, which is really not the best situation to be in. Standard Sophia, standard support like Tensei Jessica, and standard Freya with faction buff and phalanx troops. So I wasn't sure what my opponent was going to be doing, so I stayed in place for a little bit. I was really concerned about the Helena. Obviously the Bernhardt was also going to close range gradually. So I went ahead and moved in with Rose Lash. This was mainly just to expand my guard range. Since I did get hit, since I do have the Sophia guard, defense buff active, faction buffing immediately is actually not the most beneficial. So yeah, I was definitely counting. I spent a lot of time on this match, I think. Yeah, I spent a great deal of time just counting steps with Helena. It's kind of annoying to count steps with Helena because you have to make sure you skip any spots that have the Iron Wall 4s up and running. And also, some things to note about Helena: she ignores other people. She can run through opponents, so you can't really block her, which is something I tend to forget often. Yeah, so my opponent is also being pretty kind of defensive a little bit. I mean, also it's also the fact that all of them have really low mobility besides Helena. So I'm just using this opportunity to kind of just move where I need to move. So that breeze proc was a little annoying. So this is her coverage now, and that's without. And then she can proc Chivalry here. So technically she can get all the way to here with Chivalry and the breeze proc. Not quite in range of attacking Sophia. That's why I kind of kept her back. So yeah, my opponent is staying back. But I'm going to go ahead and start taking the center here. Breeze proc on Bernhardt. As mentioned, most people in PvP will take Breeze. I did move Sophia up here. All the little fancy crystals are down the bottom here, so up here she's actually pretty safe. I don't really need to worry about a sudden rush by Helena. There's also no act against on my opponent's side, so I don't need to worry about anything like that. So the biggest issue, of course, is my opponent has 2 tanks that are really, really good at tanking cavalry. So at this point, getting strengthened up on Marielle, and then I teleport her in range. The reason why I do this is so I don't have to use her other ability to get in range, which will ensure that both her strikes have at least her attack buff. Now I do have 3 buffs active, but the first buff one of the buffs will wear off, unfortunately. So I'm going to lose about 15%. Actually, I'm going to lose a lot more than that because Zealots only get this benefit when they're above 80%. So I'm going to have a bunch of buffs on the first strike, and then I'm going to lose all of it for the second strike, unfortunately. So, moved in. Did dispel some buffs, which is fine. Albedo's damage when she counterattacks is actually pretty good, as you can tell. I am going to heal up some of my troops, but it's not going to be enough to keep up the Zealot buff. And I went ahead and tried to go for kill here. I actually could have gone after Helena, but I'm pretty sure the result would have been the same. So yeah, despite the troubles I had, I almost was able to pull it off. So almost killed Bernhardt, but not quite. But yeah, I was definitely in range. I could have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to here and attack Helena. But Helena was at full health and her own special terrain. And I didn't have spears. I had zealots, so it just wasn't going to happen on that route. Now the good news is my opponent decided to heal, because that gives me an opening. Because my Helena's in range to go ahead and kill their Helena. Not only that, I'll be able to get a lot of extra movement, so my damage dealt's going to get increased enough to negate the damage reduction that she has. So it's going to work out pretty well in my favor here. So unfortunately the little AoEs I do is actually going to heal him more than it's going to hurt him. But that's okay. So move 5 steps. Crystal Bloom. Yeah, so take her out completely. Take out all the terrain. So I wasn't sure what my opponent was gonna do. I was kind of concerned that my opponent was gonna go try to take out Helena. I mean, Hilda does have spears. It is versus angels, but Helena herself has Cav. But instead, my opponent just rushed in, not at full health. Went straight for trying to go for a kill here. Did get the heal negations, which is what I was most afraid of, which is really bad. And yeah, not the best situation. But since I didn't think my opponent had thorns, I went ahead and just did Light's Embrace, which gives me class advantage. Let's see what the damage was there again. So yeah, it looks like, was it 16,000? Yeah, it looks like about around a little over 16,000 here. And how much did I do? Okay, yeah, I was more than safe. Doing this also healed up Helena, which was kind of helpful. And at this point, my opponent got a little desperate and just tried to rush in. Did some okay damage, but I mean, okay for a tank, I guess. And then just takes a bunch of reflected fixed damage. At this point, my guard was going to wear off, so I went ahead and moved up. Used Rewind to kind of get stuff back up and running. So at this point, all my opponent has is tanks and healers. Or tanks and a healer. So at this point, it was all about taking the center, because that's what I assumed my opponent was going to do. So at this point, went ahead and moved in. I could also start just constantly putting terrain in the middle. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to apply any debuffs because Rose the Seal's there. Now you get to see Albedo when she uses her special attack. Pure Desire does okay damage. I mean, swords versus spears, essentially. But now that that's gone, I don't have to really worry about it now. I went ahead and did teleport to go ahead and get as much coverage as possible. And at this point, the center 6, by the way, is right here. So when Freya moves in, I'll have 4 out of the 6 slots. So my opponent will either have to give up a tank or give up a healer to actually stay here. And it looks like my opponent's just going to have the tanks set up here and then try to do as much possible within the next 4 or so rounds. They do have all potential self-reses, so even if they stand out in the smoke, that'll buy them an additional round. So even though I can't really do any damage and the crystal is going to constantly heal them back up, the Bloodthirster will at least do some damage after the fact. So at this point I was like, oh, Albedo's guard has worn off, and I forgot that Albedo's talent makes it so she actually guards in a ring rather than at cross, so she was able to guard. But I was able to see how strong Albedo was against Tensei Jessica's attack. I think that was okay, yeah, that was my 3C, so almost killed her, but not quite. So yeah, at this point I'm just kind of passing turns. Freya's kind of just going to sit there now. They get guard back up, not a big deal. Oh yeah, I forgot that she does get buffed by reincarnation. Anyway, just keeping heals up. Since I can't get any debuffs on Albedo, she can't actually speed up her refresh on her attack skill. So none of them can really do much of anything. I have more damage, as you can see, so I can easily just kind of pass turns and just do a bunch of free damage. And I'm taking extra actions here just to speed up my cooldowns. So regular attack here to see how strong it was. Nearly kills her. So mass crystal healing. The thorns nearly killed Tensei Jessica. If I had done 3C, there was a good chance I might have killed her. She might have killed herself. So this is a regular attack. Alberto doesn't get the bonus defense to attack when she attacks unless she's using Impure Desire. Actually, that was Impure Desire, wasn't it? I guess it wore off. Or the cooldown refreshed, rather. So, and at this point, since I got healed up, I was able to just get a kill off on Hilda. I mean, the fact of the matter is I have an attacker. Hilda doesn't have any special attacks, so this is just a raw attack. I'm doing more reflected damage into her than she does to me. Yeah, as you can see. So, doing Chivalry here. At this point, I could have attacked. I think I could have probably taken out Hilda. But I was in no particular hurry, and my opponent was like, yeah, I can't get a kill, so, and I have more damage, so that is it. So, yeah, tons of damage. Even, yeah, went better than I expected, even though I kind of threw away my Marielle. Alright, so I'll see you guys in just a bit. Okay, so this match was in a normal time. It wasn't the early time slot, it was just the midday time slot. So I got to kind of see what type of boxes you run into in the normal time slot. Unsurprisingly, it definitely feels very meta in a lot of ways. Though nowadays there's so many kind of decent characters that you know, you're gonna see something in every box essentially. All right. In any case, they banned my Koyura first of all people. And yeah, it looks like a lot of AoE on this box. In fact, I would argue probably the only things that are not AoE in this box is Tensei Jessica, even though you can make her AoE. Yeah, actually, you know what? The only thing that's not AoE in this is Elwyn and Yusuke here. Everyone else here can potentially be an AoEer. And Albedo, of course. Albedo can't be AoE. So, ban Ares, because it's Ares. I take Hilda. They start going for my healers immediately. They take Juggler. I was like, yeah, they're going to try to rush me. Start going after some of the AoEs I figure are going to be a problem. I take Lycoris as my healer. She could be faction buffed by Hilda. They start going for my legs and my long-range characters and teleports. They take a Bozel. Went ahead and took care of Lycoris and took care of the Tensei Jessica. So at this point, they have to take a healer if they want to take a healer. I take Lucretia, because they left me with Lucretia for some reason. So I can at least bombard from long range if I need to. The other thing that Lucretia is really good at is slowly whittling down cooldown timers. So good, pretty good stuff there. They did take out two of my other potential assassins. They take Liana for a healer, which is fine. Went ahead and took care of Bernhardt and I don't even remember his name. It's the what was it, Lord of Crimzo, I think it is. Anyway, I've run into Crimson once in World Arena. He's not that bad, but I didn't want to deal with him. He has self-reses, and I think he can become untargetable, which is really annoying. In any case, he's AoE as is Bernhardt, so at this point I'm just trying to get rid of as much AoE as possible. I take Illustrial because they left me with her. Lucretia can do mass attack, so I can definitely buff her if necessary. I could have taken Sabame, but I felt more comfortable taking Illustrial because of all the terrain that's along the top and the bottom of the map. And they take Brenda here, so I can tell my opponent's being really annoying. Brenda does have an AoE. Her 3C is an AoE that can anti-heal and do fixed damage. Take Hilda, or not Hilda, take Helena. Even though they have a bunch of tanks, I'm hoping to find an opportunity to just rush in and get a hit in. And then they take Albedo, so it's essentially like 3 tanks and Bozel. So really the goal here is to take out Bozel, because obviously Bozel's the most dangerous when it comes to the AoEs. He's also the faction buffer. He's buffing Albedo and Betty, because Betty is Dark Faction if you didn't know. Juggler... No faction buff for Juggler, but they did bring Gossipal on Liana. No single target heals. So with my Lucretia, I did drop her Reaper and took mass attack. And then I got Langrisser here. Since I didn't have to worry about faction buff, I took Mass Heal, Mass Resist, Mass Protect. Mass Protect does have ways of preventing heal negation. My Hilda does have Blood Pact, but I was a little bit concerned of possibly being like stacked upon, like Betty disabling all my heals and then following up with other AoEs. Standard Illustrial, Standard Helena, Standard Hilda. Still using Phalanxes here. Don't really need to bring Crystal Molders, I felt. And yeah, that's about it. So I was counting steps this entire time as usual. My opponent, as expected, did bring faction buff with the other 2 AoEs. This Bozal does not have boots, so he only moves 4 spaces, or not 3 spaces. So I took that into account when I was counting for Act Agains. My opponent is player 2 with an Act Again, which is very dangerous, so it's just something to be aware of. The other thing I was counting a lot of was Juggler's movement. Can move 3 and then move another 3 if he gets Act Again, and then teleport 4 spaces. So with this, he could go 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So anything that's adjacent to these tiles could become shut down as far as mobility or guard. So that's what I was measuring the entire time. This match took forever. I was counting a lot. I'm also spreading out a little bit just to see where my opponent goes. The key to this match was Celestial. I need Celestial to get in and kill Bozal. If I can kill Bozal, I felt like I can handle everything else for the most part. The problem is I couldn't predict when my opponent was going to use Act Again, and since he goes last on the turns or on the rounds, it was really hard to kind of predict. Like he could literally wait to the last minute to Act Again and then surprise me. So I had to essentially assume that every single one of their units was going to get Act Again and play off of that. So I was definitely, as you can see, I'm hanging back at this point. I moved in just enough to kind of try to threaten my opponent. I was counting a lot of steps on my end as well, because I can do some shenanigans with the Golem here. I can move the Golem up 3 spaces here, swap with Lucretia, which means I can then move 3 spaces here, and then go 1, 2, 3, 4. So at this point, I'm actually in range of attacking Juggler or Albedo. Things to note right now is the only person that guards magic is Albedo. Betty cannot guard magic at all, and Juggler can only guard magic after doing his 3-cost skill. But even with that, like right now, technically Bozal is not being guarded by magic, but Bozal also has 1100 magic defense, so chances were I was not going to be, even if I were to apply all the debuffs that from Impure Shockwave, I don't think I was going to be able to one-shot Bozal, especially at full health, because at full health sorceresses also have really high M defense. So a lot of things that tends to kill me is I tend to get impatient. So I'm trying to hang back as much as I can. And I can kind of weave around with Helena and place crystals and give myself more coverage on both the top and the bottom of the map. So yeah, as you can see, we're kind of playing a little dance here. So this is Illustrial's coverage now in her new position. I can attack Bozal, but I'm not sure if I can get the kill. I'll be attacking at 3 range. That would be without any Jade Storm or Emerald Crusher. And I don't. One thing I never remember is Illustrial does not have Twilight Star, so I can't pop Bozal's sorceresses. But my opponent decided to move in, and so I was like, well, that's all I wanted. So killed all of his killed 2 or 3 of his buffs and turned them into debuffs, and then just got a kill. Unfortunately, actually falling back, I seem to be okay. Yeah, I was able to just fall back at that point. So, Bozal's gone, which means I don't have to worry about any of that nonsense. The only AoEs that are left are Juggler and Betty, and they're really high cooldowns. And yeah, I don't really have to worry too much. Also, since Bozal's gone, gradually Albedo and Betty's faction buff are going to wear off, and at that point I'll be completely safe. I'm constantly cycling buffs right now with the chorus, mainly just to get immunities up, but also to get more of the healing terrain up if I need it. So Gospel wore off, so she needs to reapply it. Went ahead and fell back at this point because I think Guard was wearing off. So I thought I had an opportunity. I thought I was going to be able to. Actually, I think what I was doing was I was going to see how tough Albedo was. So I attacked with Free Strike just to go take out the Phalanx troops. As you can see, I did quite a bit of damage, and then I was able to passively heal the Betty talent damage. Since I don't do AoE, Betty's talent is not as dangerous. This attack was free because I can then do this, shift position, swap positions with Lucretia, and then I was going to go ahead and use this opportunity to go ahead and get Illustrial's, Illustrial's cooldowns down. Now, I was hoping to try to get a kill on Albedo because she is infantry. The thing I failed to take into account though is Juggler's Guard is up. The only way this would have worked is if I had tried to attack up here on Liana, but I'm pretty sure the priority would have gone to Juggler anyway. So this ended up just not being a very good move overall. So yeah, I ended up doing a lot of damage to myself there for no good reason. Also, all the fancy little AoEs that Helena does is going to proc Betty's talent, so I'm essentially just killing myself at this point. I am playing debuffs, which is helpful, but essentially my Helena was kind of thrown away here. So yeah, even against Cav, she was just fine. Also, I think she's in Forest, so it was not a good move there. Obviously, the biggest danger here is the center. We need to get to the center eventually. The reason why I'm hesitating is because Betty's around. But I did get another opportunity to get a assassination strike with Illustrial. For those who don't know, with her helmet, I can bypass guard as long as I attack from mountains, grasslands, and forest. So her moving here gave me a perfect opportunity to use Emerald Crusher. Unfortunately, I don't have any place I can fall back to. The good news is it did force Juggler to use his V-Shock. So at least that's gone. He still has his 3C though. Alright, so technically 3 on 4 because I have a pet. I got rid of their healer, and I got rid of their primary faction buffer and AoE damage. So, mass resist. So right now, all of them should have immunity to heal negation, but only for 1 round. Yep, so we're gonna get hit from that. I went ahead and healed at this point because I was not sure how much damage Bleed Storm was going to do. So unfortunately this means Lycoris's immunity has worn off, but everyone else is immune. So yeah, heal negation was immune to everyone except for Lycoris. And yeah, not very much damage. I don't know if her faction buff was still up, was it? It was not. So yeah, very, very minimum damage. Also, her moving there, since Juggler did his 3C, he actually has Magic Guard up. So even though I can't move Lucretia, I was still able to attack the target I wanted to go for. And even though Juggler has all those fancy buffs, he doesn't have a faction buff either, so they're just not very durable right now. Went ahead and did Magic Pulse. I tend to use it on my tanks more often than not, just so I can cycle their faction buff and guard much faster. Because there's usually a dead turn where you're vulnerable to either having your guard down or having potentially all your other buffs down. So I'm in healing terrain, so I can just kind of freely tank everything. I can pass turns and just get healed up again. Just kind of works out. Again, so I wasn't sure what the guard priority here was, but it ended up being Juggler, which is who I wanted to target, and so I was able to take him out completely. So it does. You might notice that Betty does have self-reses, but they're only against fixed damage. And since I don't do fixed damage, it's not a big deal. Shot a little laser beam for some extra damage, not a big deal. So at first I thought Albedo's position was going to be like a little diagonal here to kind of try to hinder my ability to actually take the center tiles. But when she moved up here, I was pretty much good to go. Because then I can just move there. And then move there. I did defense buff because I know they're going to attack my Lucretia. I was not concerned about Lucretia dying because she does have her pet up, which means she will self-res at least once. Alright, and then I went ahead and just moved down, shift position, and then take the center. So now I have all my characters in the center. I can finally get rid of Betty. So yeah, I definitely, the normal time slot, even at Silver 3, actually sorry, Silver 2 at this point, a bit more difficult. So at this point, Mist is here, and my opponent actually sat there for a little bit. I was kind of concerned of whether or not he was going to do a bad play and just wait out the timer, but no, he gave up. So didn't have to wait too long. But yeah, again, my tank is not tanking very much. Usually it's just everyone else is taking all the hits for everyone else. That's okay. Juggler, of course, did most of the damage because of AoE. Betty did some damage because of a lot of reflection. So, crazy stuff there.